Hello, and welcome back to yet another Rookie Jet video where today we're going to be diving into the archetypes present in Red Giant a little bit more. Last time we touched a little bit on character creation and how to do that if you're new to a game of Red Giant, but today I wanted to dive more deep into some of these archetypes and kind of give a different perspective on them than if you're just reading through the book. So I hope everybody's having a good day. It looks like it's going to snow here. But yeah, so let's just jump into it and let's review some of these. So first off, we have the Vagabond. Health 22, Spirit 8, Sanity 10. Archetype skills, once per day you may add +1 to any check. Number 2, you are now able to always get a full night's rest in half the normal time. And number 3, once per day, you may add +1 to any checks involving charisma. This can be combined with the bonus from the first skill. So the Vagabond, I designed that with kind of the general player in mind. If you have somebody who's relatively new to tabletop role-playing games, they probably don't have a good idea for the kind of characters they want to play. This is sort of the generic like wanderer. So you get a lot of bonuses. You get overall just some really solid buffs through these skills, and you have a solid stat spread. If you want to use magic, you have some spirit. Your health is relatively high, and you have pretty much an average sanity. So this is a archetype that I would totally recommend for someone who is new to Red Giant or new to tabletop RPGs in general and doesn't want to dive too deep into the minutia of different skills, or not skills, but magic and things like that. So just moving on, I want to get through these relatively quickly. I don't like these videos to be super long. So the Hunter, we have health 24, spirit 6, sanity 10. Immediately off the bat, not too much of a magic caster. You might be able to get away with like a spell or two. You could also use orbs, but you're not going to be probably focusing too much on magic with this archetype. So let's run through the skills. Once per day, you may find 1d4 rations regardless of your location. Number 2, you are able to precisely locate wild animals in the wild area. And 3, as long as you damage a target once, you are able to track its scent. So immediately out of the gate, we clearly know that this is a class that focuses more on hunting and ensuring that the party has food and things like that. The thing that I designed this around was to naturally be a type of hunter, given the archetype class. But with skill number 3, you can use that in creative ways. So you could track a person. You might even be able to track a, object or some sort of like vehicle that they're using, like a horse and carriage, things like that. I want people to use this stuff in creative ways. I don't want people to just look at it at face value and go, hey, I guess I can track that boar that I attacked and we can get some food off of it. So, I mean, definitely this is more of a party-based class, I would say, party-based archetype. You're definitely gathering food and things like that for people, but you also have a little bit more to work with number 3 and number 2, being able to locate wild animals in the area. Number 2, a way that I did see that used in playtesting that I loved was that basically whenever someone noticed that there weren't animals in the area, they knew that something horrible was lurking about. And I didn't tell people this, but they figured it out, and I love that. So it can be used in creative ways. A lot of these can be used in creative ways, so just keep that in mind as we go through the list. Number 3, we have the Slayer. Health 24, Spirit 8, Sanity 8. Nothing really to write home about there other than health. But let's dive into the archetype skills. So once per day, you are able to tell if there are enemies near you and approximately how far away they are. That's an incredibly good archetype skill to go through. If you, I mean, it's kind of the same as the previous class, but just way more straightforward. Where you can just tell how far away they are. Do you have time to prepare? Are they coming near you? all kinds of different stuff there. Number 2, once per day you may recover +1 sanity. Huge in this game. Sanity recovery is not something that we have a lot of, and so any chance you get to recover sanity is going to be huge. Number 3, you deal +1 damage when fighting against creatures, monsters, or horrors. Fantastic. It's passive. It's always active. The Slayer's, clearly somebody that's going to be more involved with physical combat. Probably like any kind of physical weapon user. Not too much magic. Pretty low on sanity, I'm going to say. So recovering that sanity is going to be paramount for the character. Moving on, we have the sorcerer, health 20, spirit 12, sanity 8. Pretty, decent health, good spirit, and then sanity is still lacking with the slayer. But what the sorcerer lacks and the special stats it makes up for in the archetype skills. So you begin with the Staff of Barrier, and that's found on page 60 of the full book. So you start with this staff immediately from the time you create your character. Whether or not you want to use that as your main weapon or not is completely up to you. But just be aware that you will start with that no matter what. I've seen people before not even want to mess with staff magic at all, and so they will actually sell the staff. That's possible too. A lot of different opportunities there. 2, once per day, you may cast the same spell produced by a crimson orb on page 61. So the sorcerer is kind of all around with magic. And so you can essentially, what this means, number 2, is that you can cast the same crimson orb spell twice. So if you have one of those in your inventory, or you have several of them, once per day, you can cast 2 of those. 3, you deal +1 damage with any offensive magic. That is massive. That is absolutely massive. So what this means is that anytime you roll and you successfully deal damage to a creature, monster, horror, anything, even a person in this context, you would deal +1 damage on top of that roll. So the sorcerer is really great. I would say definitely for people who are a little more familiar with Red Giant, if you're just starting out, just because of the Crimson Orb, Staff of Barrier stuff happening here. But otherwise, completely solid pick. Let's move forward. So number 5. I've heard this pronounced in different ways. I call it the aegis. I've heard aegis as well. Health 24, spirit 8, sanity 8. Health really good. Spirit not so great, sanity not so great, but let's see what the archetype skills are. So once per day, you are able to magically heal a person other than yourself. Roll 1d6 to determine health gained. Fantastic. This is going to be your healer. This is going to be a party archetype that mostly benefits by benefiting other people. So any health gain, fantastic. It's not something we have a lot of in Red Giant. Definitely something you want to be paying attention to if you're getting into a lot of combat scenarios. 2, you restore +1 health with all healing items and magical effects. Absolutely massive. Like I just said, echoing on that, now you gain +1 on top of everything else that you do. So even if you were to use archetype skill number 1, you would still roll 1d6 plus the 1 to that total roll. So it's fantastic. You're at least guaranteed to get 2. So then number 3, once per day, you are able to nullify an attack that would otherwise kill this character. Fantastic for staying alive. I mean, what are you supposed to do there? And I mean, it's almost busted now that I'm kind of rereading through it, because if your character, let's say they're at 4 HP and they keep getting hit with attacks that are 6, once per day, that nullifies the damage entirely. They don't take any of it, so they stay alive. It's only once per day, that's why I think it's not busted, but it's still a fantastic tool to have in the Aegis kit. So number 6, the hidden. Health 20, spirit 10, sanity 10. Really good spread there. Can't complain. Let's look at the archetype skills. Once per day, you are able to vanish into the shadows for 15 seconds and cannot be seen by any person or creature during this time. Number 2, you gain +1 to all checks involving stealth. 3, once per day, you are able to gracefully open any lock. Have you figured out what class this is yet? Because it's most certainly your thief. Does thiefy things, has a, I would say, average stat block. It's really just, well-rounded. Definitely good for those people who like to play the stealth archer class, or any kind of thievy, stealthy class. All right, moving on. Number 8, the Haunted. So, health 24, spirit and abysmal 6, insanity 10. So, spirit is really where this character lacks. That's going to be, detrimental. You're basically relegated to orb magic at that point if you want to pursue magic with this archetype. But let's look at the skills before we make any, sudden decisions. Sorry, it's morning for me. So archetype skills, and I have to have my coffee. Archetype skills. You begin with an additional exchange. So if you've taken 3 exchanges and you want to kind of build onto that, you can take an additional exchange. If you've only taken 1, you still have to begin with an additional exchange. 2, once per day, you may know the exact location of the closest horror. This is fantastic if your party is weak at the moment. This is also good to just prepare for these kinds of encounters. And then number 3, you gain +1 to all checks when dealing with a horror. So the Haunted pretty much is just a where's the horror, how do we deal with it, I'm cursed kind of character. It's definitely one that it's got a well spread stat block, but it's definitely something that will, how do I put this, that will provide you with a little bit of a challenge if you are playing Red Giant, because it's not as straightforward as some of the other archetypes. So definitely take that if you are more accustomed to the game and if you want a little bit more of a challenge. Number 8, I hope I called the Haunted 7 because the speaker is most certainly 8. Health 22, Spirit 10, Sanity 8. Pretty nice spread. Sanity is not looking so hot there, but that's fine. We've seen that before with the sorcerer and slayer, so no worries. You begin with the words, archetype skills. You begin with the keywords cube and shock from the speech magic category. So absolutely fantastic. You immediately start off with 2 keywords from speech magic, and you can immediately begin casting that from the inception that you create your character. 2, once per day you may speak to the fauna and flora of the world for 1 minute. So sort of like a druid-esque skill. So you can fluently speak to flora and fauna around you, plants, wildlife, things like that, and try to get some information out of them. Maybe they've seen something that you haven't. Maybe they know what you're looking for. 3, you may now apply the keyword lesser to your spells throughout the speech magic category. So now you get another keyword. So in total, just by taking this archetype, you get 3 keywords from speech magic. So if speech magic interests you whatsoever, this might be a really, really good class for you to take, or archetype. Class, archetype, interchangeable. Moving on, I think we are, these are the last 2. So number 9, the Siren. Health 20, Spirit 10, Sanity 10. Well-rounded, easy to deal with stat block. Let's dive into the archetype skills. Once per day, you are able to sing a song which temporarily changes the weather to be favorable for the party. Not the most mechanically fantastic skill there, but definitely narratively speaking, really good. If you are traveling into like a mountainside or something like that could be difficult to traverse, or a forest that could be dangerous when dark, it might be good to clear up those storms, those high winds that could possibly give your party issues. Number 2, you gain +1 to any checks involving mine. Fantastic. That's going to come in handy almost, I mean, definitely daily if you're playing a character like the Siren. 3, once per day, you are able to sing a song which boosts the mood of those around you, restoring 1d4 sanity to all party members. That's the reason right there, if nothing else, to play the Siren. Definitely a party class that is going to help your party out. Restoring 1d4 sanity is nuts on top of, other methods to restore sanity. So moving to the final archetype for Red Giant, we have the Traveler. Health 20, Spirit 8, and Sanity 12. So the only thing lacking here is Spirit. Sanity and Health are, pretty solid here. Archetype skills. When traveling, you no longer require a map to navigate correctly. That could be a huge passive spell, or skill, I'm sorry, for any people who are really bad at remembering to carry certain items on them. And Red Giant, you do need to have a map on your person, at least one of you, in order to correctly navigate where you are going when you're traveling in hexes. So make sure that if you're a forgetful person, pick this. Just pick it. Just don't even look at anything else. Just pick that and start off with it. It's a nice spread, and you don't have to worry about getting lost and killing your whole party. So number 2, you are able to correctly navigate in any kind of weather. Boom. You're not going to be affected by weather. You're not going to have a siren on your team in order to correctly navigate. 3, you gain 1 to involving travel or navigation. So, the Traveler is definitely going to be another party class, which isn't a bad thing, but this is going to help you actually navigate where you're going. So you're not getting lost, you're not getting held up, and so that you actually survive from one location to the next. The Traveler may not look super useful on the surface, but as soon as you get into the game and you've played for a little bit, you'll wish you had a Traveler on your team. A lot of these classes just kind of wrap up here. Have been pulled clearly from, like other games and things like that, and they're inspired by different kinds of media. And maybe one day I'll go over, what those were inspired by. But I don't want people to feel like they are limited to only these different archetypes. Once you've, really, really had a chance to sit down and play the game, feel free to make your own. Just make sure that your GM is okay with it. And if you're the GM, and you're making some for other people, get some feedback on those. My cat's crying right here, sorry. But definitely just try to have fun with it and do what you can. Sorry for my disheveled look. I woke up and decided I needed to make yet another video, so forgive me. Hopefully I'll look better next time. There's my cat. Have a good day.